right, hello wine drinking people. Time for more of what I've had to drink yesterday. And you know, like I say, a wine that is familiar to you is just like seeing an old friend, and it's always nice to see Luc Bouchard. I remember the first time I met Luc at the Great Wine Seminar. We had his famous Baby Jesus wine all the way back to 1949. I still got that bottle up here somewhere on our wall of fame. A phenomenal bottle of wine, and I felt compelled to keep the empty bottle, which I really did until we put this tasting room up here, and we needed to fill the shelves up with some trophy wines. But you know, Burgundies can last a very long time because of the acidity. You know, Pinot Noir is a thin-skinned varietal, so it doesn't have the tannins. And Chardonnay, the other great varietal that they grow in Burgundy, pronounced acidity, and you have that limestone soil that really makes the terroir in Burgundy unique and perfect for these two varietals that like the cooler weather. And Bouchard Pere was bought by the Henriot group over a decade ago. They also bought William Ferve, and they got several other properties, but these are the two real gems of their Burgundy portfolio. And Bouchard Pere 2011 wines on their way in. We always do a pre-sell and a barrel tasting with these wines. And we were lucky enough to be able to taste them before our barrel tasting, so we give you a little pre-offering, and then we will offer you, our wine-drinking people, a chance to come here and taste these 2011s with us. And 2011, kind of a cross between 2009 and 2010. They don't have quite as much richness as the 2009s do. This was a very warm vintage. The tannin's very ripe in this vintage. And then 2010, a little more austere, a little more classic Burgundy. So not quite as ripe as 2009, not quite as classic as 2010, somewhere in between. And 2011 was somewhat of a difficult vintage. They had some irregularity in flowering, and the quantity was down a little bit. But they made some very good wines, I have to say, from Bouchard and Ferve. I was impressed with everything we had. We started out with a Sauvigny Le Bon Le Lavieres Premier Cru, one of the best values in Burgundy. Sauvigny Le Bon, you can get Premier Cru wines for relatively inexpensive. The prices have gone up. I would recommend you stock up on 09 and 2010 because 2011, I mean, it's a good vintage. But there's still a lot of 2009, 2010 out there at a very fair price. But this 2011 had a lovely balanced approach to it. A lot of stone in this vineyard. That's what the name refers to. So very good aeration here. And kind of a nice dark raspberry fruit there. Dark spice and pretty floral notes in this wine. And, still very young on the palate. A lot of acidity. Some tannin showing in, but a nice zesty finish. Nice structure and quite approachable, though. These 2011s, I think, are wines that are going to show better in their youth than 2010 and possibly even 2009. But an excellent bottle of Burgundy. Bouchard Pere the Chambolle-Musigny, one of my favorite villages in all of Burgundy, containing the two Grand Crus Bon Mars and Musigny on either end of the Chambolle-Musigny village. They've got a new facility which has helped them with this vintage also because things did warm up after the vintage, and they can control the temperature of fermentation, which is all important when you're trying to make fine wine. Some people believe that, hey, we're just going to let nature give us whatever happen. We're not going to try to control anything, and I don't know. You should take advantage of technology. Very important today. These guys at Bouchard do with their brand new facility here. Pretty floral notes, rose petals, exotic spices in the Chambolle-Musigny. One of the things I love about Chambolle, it is light in color, maybe light on the palate a little bit in terms of the concentration of fruit and flavors, but lovely nuance on the finish. Lovely red cherry and cranberry fruit. And using less oak in these wines, not only has the price of oak gone up, but they really want to express their terroir in this wine. It's got a lovely, elegant, smooth texture and lovely red berry fruit and pretty floral notes through the finish. A really elegant wine. One of the things I love about Chambolle-Musigny, excellent juice. And then the Bouchard Pere Chambolle Gevrey Chambertin, a little bigger wine. They have the largest vineyard holdings of any property in terms of Premier and Grand Cru in all of Burgundy. And 70% of their holdings in Premier Cru is pretty much all their own juice. They do buy some fruit for some of these Premier Crus and for the village level stuff, but all of the Grand Cru wines from Bouchard Pere come from their own holdings. This wine's got a lovely bright raspberry and cherry fruit to it. Notes of rose petals, some fresh earth here, starting to get some earthy nature of the Burgundies. Bright and high-toned fruit here with firm acidity, some tannins. And really nicely built Gevrey Chambertin. Some good bit of tannins coming in here on the finish. This wine needs a little time, but still very, very young. A barrel sample. The Volnay Cailleret Cuvée Ancien. This is the first vineyard that the Bouchard family purchased in 1775. It's in the middle of the slope, so small rocks, really good drainage. Always early to mature, one of the first wines to harvest, the Baby Jesus being the first for them. A good bit of spice here on the nose. Volnay being from the Côte de Beaune, so a little warmer there. Some dark cherry fruit, some lovely exotic dark spices as well. A big and structured wine on the tongue. Iron fist with a velvet glove is how Luke describes this wine. Good grip, but still has nice smoothness on the palate. You get intense wine with complexity. Some meaty notes coming in there at the finish as well at $82. All right, the Baby Jesus wine. This wine is always on the shelf here at the Wine Watch. We got the 2010 in stock, and a really pretty bouquet in this wine. Really lovely complexity, spice, fresh earth, black raspberry, cherry fruit. The vineyard dates back to the 1950s and 80s in terms of when it was planted, so the vines here are very old. The younger vines from this vineyard are declassified into their other bone wines. Texture similar to the Volier Caillerates. That gravelly soils allow the roots to go very deep here, so in dry vintages, they don't have a problem. In wet vintages, they don't have a problem here. A very consistent wine every year because of this drainage situation. Very lovely nuance on the palate here, an array of spice, fresh earth, kind of gravelly mineralities to that red berry fruits. Exotic spices showing in this wine. I let these glasses open up for a couple hours. Rich, but also very elegant. Most excellent juice. All right, the white wines. Oh, I'm sorry. We got one more red. The Le Courton Grand Cru. This is a big wine on the nose. This Grand Cru Courton produces really wines that need time in the bottle. This wine's got some raw meat, tobacco spice, some smoky notes there. Cranberry, red berry fruit here showing. Lovely freshness on the palate, but again, some tannins in this wine. Still very young. Needs a little time to come around. A strong mineral quality to the finish as well. A big wine, but still elegant and appealing. Most excellent juice. This 2011 Le Courton. All right, now on to the whites. The Meursault Les Clous, which is a Lieu-D. You know, usually if you see another name after the village and there's not Premier Cru attached to it, it's just a named vineyard. And it lies on the top of the hill of Meursault, so very rocky soils, which explains the pronounced minerality in this wine. They only used 10% new barrels again in the white, so just a little bit of oak spice to this wine. You get a lovely, fresh, bright apple and pear-like fruits. A little hint of vanilla spice. Very forward and enticing, as this wine always is. Fresh and bright on the palate. Lovely, juicy fruit here showing that distinct, stony minerality also on the finish. A really well-balanced Meursault. Excellent juice at $54. The Polini Montrachet, a light flinty note to the nose, to that lemon, citrus, and green apple fruit. The chalk and limestone-like minerality shining in this wine. Polini, to me, is always a wine that needs a little more time to come around, but really distinct minerality to this wine, just a little bit tightly wound at the moment. A very long finish in this wine. Excellent juice, the Village Polini 2011. Then the Courton Charlemagne, the Grand Cru. This wine has got lovely richness on the nose. This is a southeast exposure on the hill of Courton, and this exposure gives them lovely power and minerality, and just a wonderful combination of the best that Courton Charlemagne has to offer. They use a little bit more new oak in this, and they really get good aeration in this part of the vineyard. So they said, Luke said in 2011, no problems at all in Courton. Ripe and delicious white peach pear fruits. Really a lovely richness here showing on the palate already. This wine, not really, evolved, but this Courton always shows good young. A wine that's got lovely depth of flavors and structure, some toasty oak spice showing as well, some vanilla character, and lots of minerality in this wine. Most excellent juice, the Grand Cru White. All right, then on to Chablis, 2 hours north of the Côte de Nuit here, so very different conditions, but 2011, a very good vintage. 2010 and 2009. Again, this is kind of a cross between these two vintages in Chablis as well. The Maltman Premier Cru, really nice bright lemon citrus, that seashell-like mineral note showing through as well. Lemon drop candy on the palate with a lovely firm hand of acidity. Chablis always needs time. These young barrel samples showing lots of energy, though. This Maltman 2011, an excellent Premier Cru from Ferve. And then the Valorant. This is a vineyard right next to Le Clos, so kind of a baby Grand Cru. Good concentration on the nose. Bright lemon blossom fruit here, white grapefruits. Lots of minerality, that seashell-like briny character showing here as well. Features more energy than the 2009, more generous fruit than 2010, kind of the best of both worlds. Bright high-tone lemon and white grapefruit citrus showing here through the finish with that briny kind of mineral-laced nuance as well. Really excellent juice, this Valorance. And then the big boy, the Le Clos. This wine has got a lovely concentration of fruit on the nose. Green apple, that distinct minerality that is Chablis from that limestone soils and that old seashell remains. Really no new oak in these wines at all from Chablis, but they do barrel ferment. A lovely lime citrus here showing with pretty floral notes. And this wine very precise on the palate with layers of minerality, that chalky, minerally nuance showing. And the wine needs a little bit of time. Le Clos, a great wine. We always feature this wine. It's got a lovely savoriness to the finish. And again, that distinct minerality, leaving the tongue salivating for food. Most excellent juice. That's what I had to drink with our friend Luc Bouchard. I'm your host, Andrew Lampasoni, signing off for the Wine Watch, saying remember, always drink the good stuff